Morning, everybody. It is Gareth at Design Pit, and this is our podcast. Put my teeth back in. This is our podcast, Pod Pit. This morning, I'm really thrilled to be joined by my client and friend, Lisa Millward of Millward Wealth Management. So, good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Morning, very well, thank you.
Good, good. We're going to be chatting today about Lisa's business and also some really topical stuff around the challenges presented in lockdown of homeschooling children. We'll get into that in a short while, but I just thought I'd give a quick top and tail of how Lisa and I know each other. So I think we've known each other for a few years now. Firstly, through a business called Mercia Financial Planning, where Lisa was, you were working under the umbrella of that business. I think when we
as an
first
advisor,
met. Yeah. And then later on in more recent times, Lisa and her husband Simon set up Millward Wealth Management, their own wealth management practice. And I've been assisting them with identity design, brand development, and we've continued to stay in touch. And I think what I've noticed is there are quite a few parallels in our family lives. We've got you've got 3 kids, I've got 1, but our daughters are the same age, and they even share the same name. And we're a similar age. We've got similar goals with businesses, and we've got similar ethos to work life. And I just thought it'd be great to get Lisa on today because it's just interesting to hear people's success stories through their careers and also how they've been getting on through lockdown, because I know that we've all had challenges over the last few months with homeschooling and whatnot. So it would be good to get your take on that as well. So I'll shut up now and hand over to you. Have a chat with us about your business, your career, and tell us where you started, where you are now, and what's going on with Millward Wealth Management.
Okay, so I'm the director of Millward Wealth Management, and I guess what we basically look to do is just help our clients with their finances, and that can mean different things for different clients. Could be pensions, could be investments, could be life insurance, could be mortgages. But it's to just really help them set out a plan, work out kind of like, where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's the goal? What's your objective? And then putting together a plan to get them there. I think in a nutshell, that's kind of what we do. I started off at Halifax. Actually, I started off as an estate agent and became a financial advisor by accident. So a friend of mine I went over just Friday night just for, movie takeaway, and I saw a study book on the table. I was like, oh, what's that? He said, I've decided I want to be a financial advisor. And at the time, I didn't want to be an estate agent, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'd left uni, didn't really have much direction. I said, oh, I'll do that with you. Like if it was a home, a remote learning course, I was like, oh, I'll do that. I'll do the exam. So I did it because I had nothing else to do, basically. Did the first exam, passed that, and thought, oh, I actually really like that. I really enjoy it. And then at the time, it's different in the industry now, but at the time, Halifax would take on part qualified advisors. So you just had to show a bit of willing. You had to pass the first exam, and then they take you on and do the rest of the exams, because there's 4 you have to do, and train you on the job. And that's what I did. Started off at Halifax. I was there, I think, for about 6 years, and that was good. It was learning a lot about the banking industry and the overall overview of that, and I guess learning what it meant to be a financial advisor. You can do the qualification; that's different to doing the job. And then my boss at the time moved to Nationwide, asked me to go with him. So I went, and that was a different experience again, because that was the difference in a bank and a building society. Yeah. And I think that taught me quite a lot about the difference in how clients can be treated by a big institution where customers are clients, and a building society where customers are members. I think that was quite a good thing that I learned. And then and I met Simon at Halifax, my husband. Yeah. He went off to HSBC, and then he decided to go to Mercia, which was a massive step for us as a family. He earned more than me in terms of kind of bonuses and basic. And he was saying, oh, I want to give all that up, Lise, and I want to go self-employed, where there are no guaranteed salaries, there's no guaranteed bonus. It was run by a mutual friend, Mark, who we've got a great deal of respect for, but he'd never done it before actually either. He'd been an IFA but never ran a company. And my answer was no. don't do that. Please don't do that. You know,
Yeah.
my whole model, my family model, my dad graduated, worked for Ford, stayed at Ford for 40 years and retired.
Mm.
That for me was what a career was. So for him to then go self-employed terrified me. But we kind of talked it through, and Mark came over, and you know, at the time I appreciated it was Simon's next step. I wasn't ready for that. It wasn't my next step. It was his.
Yeah.
So he went
Yeah.
off and did it. And within 2 months of him bringing his work home, me seeing what he was doing, the better job he could do for clients, I instantly felt unfulfilled in my job, because I
Yeah.
was thinking, I want to do that. I want to get to do that for my clients. And I was restricted where I was at Nationwide. So Mark had always said, when you're ready, Lisa, you come as well. So my step was very easy. It didn't feel scary at all, because
Yeah.
I guess Simon had paved the way for me in that respect.
Yeah.
And then I guess once you're in the world, and we was working as self-employed then, so it wasn't our company, but it was our client bank, it was our business. You know, we weren't given any leads. You had to just start from scratch and work your way up. I guess naturally the conversation came to, well, one day we should probably have our own firm. You know, we always had that conversation with Mark as well. We're always open and honest about that. It doesn't really make sense for two advisors to work in a company when the company isn't theirs. And I think the natural progression is set up on your own. And I guess once we'd built our confidence, learned our trade as an IFA, which is a different job to doing it in a bank, I guess just one day it felt like we were ready. And I said to Simon, I feel like we should at least set the balls in motion now for us to kind of go off on our own. And it's a long process to become directly authorised. It's very, very difficult with the FCA, lots of hoops you have to jump through, and it took a year. And that happened, the tail end of that was during lockdown, so that was fun. And then August last year, we got authorised, and that was it.
Yeah. I remember that sort of period of time where it was so close yet so far, and it was.
I found that really, really difficult, because we started the process, you and I, at the point that I became authorised. And then, you know, we did loads of work together, got everything up and running, and then it kind of sort of went silent. And I'd got to the point where I thought, actually, this is never going to happen for us. And it doesn't happen for loads of people. The FCA say no to lots and lots of people for lots of reasons. So I'd kind of just resigned myself to the fact of, actually, that's okay. And then all of a sudden, everything started to happen very quickly. And we were like, oh, God, we're ready to go. And I think actually my ideas of what the company was, the branding that I wanted, had changed in that 12-month period as well. So it kind of felt like we had to start again to look at it. But I guess that's how things work like this, isn't it? Your brand evolves and develops.
It's never finished. I think that's the thing. Like with a brand, it evolves with you, and sometimes your business accelerates ahead of and leaves the brand behind, and you need to stop, take stock, and sort of like bring it up to, you know, the level that you're operating at, because, you know, as we all know, like things change very quickly in business, and you know, that's why you should always, you know, approach your identity and brand as a business very carefully. And you did it the right way by putting a lot of thought into it before you even approached me. And you know, it was a really good project to work on, and you've got what I think is a really, really strong presence now. And just keeping back to what you were talking about there as well, Mark at Mercia is a thoroughly nice guy, and I think having him as your sort of bridge into self-employment, because I know you were self-employed working under the umbrella of Mercia, but to go in from the security of that, you know, really good career in the banks to where you are now, that bridging sort of period of time where you were with Mercia, that like knowing Mark as well as I do, and you're obviously close with him as well. Like, what a nice guy to actually have in your corner.
It was invaluable. That time with Mercia, we never would have taken that step in any other set of circumstances. Simon never would have gone to a different IFA firm. It was for Mark that we went, and we always say to him how grateful we are, actually, because it has absolutely changed our life going self-employed. The difference is unimaginable. But it felt like a really safe environment. So the company, and we've learned a lot, I guess, a lot from that, sort of the culture he created in terms of, the interaction with customers, interactions with other businesses, like how he conducted himself as a director. I take a lot of how I try and conduct myself from what he does as well, which is essentially just be honest, don't be an idiot. Don't say something you don't mean. Don't say you're going to do something if you're not going to do it. And work with people you trust, work with people you like. And, he used you for his branding. And there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to use you as well. Not because I wanted the same branding ideas, but I knew that you would look after me because I saw how you conducted yourself with Mark. And that's, I guess, I hate like, oh, let's build a network, stuff like that. It makes me cringe. I don't go to network building things. I never have. But actually, it's not network building. It's friends that you can work with. There's a really, really big difference, I think. If you see it like that and you're prepared to, it's like, this call today is completely out of my comfort zone, but you invest your time in me and I want to invest my time in you. And it's kind of that sort of reciprocal relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's it, really. There's all these sort of like fancy sort of hit names for things like for building relationships, but working business relationships go a lot further than the transaction that you conduct. Like we get on, Simon, I get on with Simon, we've got similar interests. He likes his rugby, so do I. And you're sort of naturally sort of drawn to people that you're going to get on with, and if you don't like someone, you're not going to work with them. But the relationship should always extend, I think, beyond the transaction. But yeah, I'm really pleased you've come on today, because it's really nice to sort of hear the sort of period of time that you were coming out of your employed role into working with Mark, and then finally getting authorised, and now Millward is up and running. So it's a fledgling business in terms of its lifespan, and it's pretty much up and running, and then bang, straight into the COVID lockdown in 2020. So how was that for you?
Yeah, I guess the difficult thing is it was also the transition period for us. So it was, if you think about it, sort of everything with lockdown started in March, and I got authorised in August. So I was kind of still doing my role as self-employed, and that became intense because, the pandemic is obviously about everyone's health, but the stock market had the worst 6-week period in the history of time. And that was terrifying for clients. So that was really, really intense because we needed to speak to everyone. So ordinarily in a month, you don't speak to every single one of your clients. But Simon and I, we sat down and we thought, how are we going to deal with this? And we knew that if we did not speak to our clients, they were going to panic and they would tailspin. So it was just a really, really intense a couple of month period at the start where we wanted to get through everyone and just say, we're here, don't panic, and I think putting in that groundwork initially made it a lot easier because we weren't firefighting. So we got in front of it. Everyone had spoken to us. Everyone knew our strategy. Everyone knew the plan. And it gave them that just sort of underlying confidence.
Yeah.
And then we decided that we would email out every couple of weeks, updates. So again, we were talking to everyone. We're kind of without talking to everyone. Mm-hmm. So that was like a new strategy, sort of, that we responded to lockdown because of that. But then obviously in August, the company set up, and that introduced a whole new role, loads of new jobs that had to be done. And we had the kids to homeschool as well. So it was just mental, literally mental. There's no other, I worked as an advisor in 2008 when the markets crashed, and that was really, really hard. But it was 9 to 5. It was in Halifax. I didn't have kids. It was really tense at work, but then I left and that was the end of it. This was different because it was all encompassing. It just affected absolutely everything.
Yeah, I think your approach, which was really open, honest, transparent, will have gone a hell of a long way to putting your clients' minds at rest. And you have to present that calm, considered, like front effectively. But it must have been difficult, as you say, with the kids at home. Because how old are yours? 8, 5, and 2.
And 2.
So
yeah.
they're right at that age where they they need a lot of your time, don't they? Especially the 2-year-old. That
even the older one, when it comes to homeschool learning, it's like he'd never seen a book in his life. It was just just crazy. And I guess that balance of, you really want to be there for your clients and you want to reassure them, but actually the world has become a terrifying place for your kids. And you need to you wanted to reassure them as well, because all of a sudden their whole world is just changed. They can't see the mates, they can't go to school. We're a family that at weekends we go on towers, we go Blackpool, we do this, we're everywhere, and all of a sudden we couldn't leave the house. And it was kind of like, I wanted to create a really safe, supportive environment for them, which should have taken up 100% of my time. And I also wanted to create a safe environment for my clients, which had also taken 100% of my time. And it's like, oh, okay, this is fun. So it was, it was that felt a lot of pressure at the time. It just felt like, some days I couldn't breathe with it, if I'm honest.
Yeah. I know we've had conversations via email and stuff where you've been like, I'm sorry, I can't get back to you today. It'll be next week because I've just got too much on my plate.
There's zero headspace for this at the moment.
To be honest, I think a lot of people are feeling like that as well at the minute. And, it has been difficult, but we are all still here and we're all still, managing to sort of keep on keeping on, as it were. The part of your business that I say this to a lot of people who have got two directors, two directors in the business. I'm really envious of that, because my business, the book stops with me. I've not got a partner in the business. It is lock, stock, mine. My wife doesn't have anything to do with my business, and I'm quite pleased about that in one way, because we would butt heads, I think. But at the same time, it would also be nice to have some of the load shared. So how has it been working so closely with your husband in the business, and how have you sort of offset the sort of load of pull of business, pull of family? How's that worked?
Well, actually, I am the sole director of Millward Wealth Management. Simon isn't a director for various reasons, but ultimately because if you're a director of a company that's authorised by the FCA, that isn't just a title. It becomes with loads of responsibilities, loads of job roles. So I'm director, I'm compliance officer, I'm anti-money laundering officer. All the roles that an FCA company has to have is actually me. And it's funny because that actually changed the balance of things a little bit within it. Because before, Simon and I, we did exactly the same jobs, but we had our own client bank. So we just ran alongside each other at Mercia. I did my own thing, he did his own thing, that was it. But now actually, on paper, and I would say in life, I am the boss, and Simon is one of the advisors. So he's just cruising along, still doing his own thing with his own clients. And suddenly I've got the compliance, the running of the company, the accounts, the things. So it has changed. My job role has changed massively, but Simon's hasn't. So that's quite a challenge to balance it out. But I think ultimately we kind of just had to set our stalls out. So at the start of all of this, we just said, right, this is going to be really rubbish, and how are we going to make it work? So we kind of had to apportion our time to the children. So we split our days. So it was like, well, Simon would have the kids in the morning, I'd have them in the afternoon, we both work night. So we kind of planned our days out that way. And then I think ultimately, in terms of the running of the business, he just kind of lets me get on with it. It's one of the reasons why he's not a director. He does not have time to do all the things that have to be done, because he's got a bigger client bank than I have.
I'm with
He's
you.
got no interest in running the company. It isn't what he wants to do. But at the same token, we kind of had to have that conversation of, okay, I'm doing all of this, but if I say something has to be done, it has to be done. And I'm not talking about, I'm going to sit him down and have one-to-ones and, morning meetings and stuff like that. But I think it's just that respect of, I respect that he's really busy with his clients, and I respect that, his workload on a client point of view is bigger than mine, and all the things he has to do. And just, I guess sometimes just appreciate that and appreciate what he's got going on. But at the same token, he then had to respect that my job had changed, and sometimes I was going to ask him about his files now, and he needed to get on board with what I was saying, and things have changed. You know, how we do things at Millward Wealth is different to how it's done at Mercia, and he had to get on board with that, and he had to toe the line. And there were some times where there's battles. He's like, I don't get why we have to do that. You know, as any, you know, advisors, you know, as me as an advisor, if, you know, if Mark ever said something's coming in, it's changing, your instant reaction is, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do anything different. I know what I'm doing. I'm fine, thanks. Leave me alone. And it's that balance of being a wife, actually being a boss, and kind of making that work and muddle through.
So there's a lot of self-discipline there, isn't there, for you both? But I suppose you've both got although the ultimate responsibility is with you, Simon's got a vested interest that this Millward Wealth Company, this is the vehicle that he allows him to do what he does so well. So you've both got that vested interest. There's the two of you in the business. A lot of self-discipline there to sort of differentiate the roles, stick to them, and teamwork makes the dream work then.
Yeah, absolutely. And often what it comes down to is kind of, I do with all the research, especially like with the marketing. You and I spend loads of time together, and we get it down to maybe one or two where the decision is it this or is it that? And that's the point I would take it to Simon, and we'd go, where do we want to go? So even though I'm, you know, on paper, the director and all of that, every decision is collaborative, but he just isn't part of that process, sort of getting to that point. He's just part of, I guess, the final decision, which streamlines it for him, you know, and it makes it, I guess, easier.
Yeah. No, it's good to see that you've sort of like allowed this, well, not allowed it, but you've kind of formed this structure internally that allows you to sort of focus on what you need to be focusing on. And it can't be easy that at the best of times, but it must have been really challenging with the additional burden of lockdown as well. So so when you've got the kids at home, how does the homeschooling work? Because in our house, I come to my studio and I work because my work is very much it's very time consuming. My wife's a teacher, so I'm very fortunate that I've got a living teacher to do the homeschooling. But equally, she's not only teaching her kids remotely, she's also got to deal with my daughter. Now, her timetable has been sort of adjusted to sort of allow flex for homeschooling your own kids. But how have you managed to sort of split the lessons, as it were, with your kids, because they are of slightly different ages?
Yeah, you have to. We've had to mark them, but you know, you don't have to be a financial advisor to work out we've got 3 kids and 2 adults in the house, so it doesn't, you know, it doesn't work. And ultimately, there's been like a fairly healthy level of neglect of Emily. You know, Mr. Tumble has become her man marker, but you do have to split up. You know, you cannot teach 2 children 2 different timetables at the same time. So it's kind of been the case that, you know, I'll take Charlie, my eldest, Simon will take Alf. We'll kind of get their work done, and in between that we'll sort of set up activities for Emily to do. There'll be like a painting station, she'll do that, and then we'll get the Play-Doh out. But you just kind of, like I say, at the start of this, we had to set a plan. Like, this is the plan, this is what we're doing, and you don't sort of deviate from that. And there has been a lot of schoolwork. I mean, it's a blessing because the school was given sort of 6 lessons a day. That's 6 lessons a day you've got to get through. You know, and I think, you know, sometimes I'll look at it and I think, you know, is there real value? Is this a filler lesson, or is there value in this for my child's education? And if it's a filler lesson and the kids aren't feeling it, it doesn't get done. You know? Especially with little Alf, sometimes it will be like, oh, colour this picture. If he's not in the mood to do colouring, I'm not going to sit there and make him do it. We move on. You know, if it's a bit different, if it's phonics or reading. But yeah, that's really how we've been splitting it, is just sort of dividing it up, and then, but also trying to get it done in quite like some families would spread homeschooling around across the whole day. We try and start early. So Charlie will sometimes be doing maths at like 7 in the morning, but we're done by 12. And then that allows us the afternoon to do work and do it like that. I used to hate the fact that my kids wake up at 5 every day, but it's actually been a real blessing in lockdown, because our day's so much longer than everyone else's. We get loads more done. But I hate it. I hate being. I'm not my children's teacher, and you were talking about the relationship between Simon and I guess the relationship between our kids have changed as well. And I just can't wait for him to go back to school. Not because we can breathe easy, but just want to be their mum again. I don't want to be their teacher.
Yeah, you don't want to be everything, this all-encompassing adult that sort of, it's quite suffocating, I think, isn't it? And I know I've had text messages from Sarah, I need a timeout, get yourself up here. You just have to drop things and just do it, don't you? But do you appreciate teachers more now than ever?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, little Alf, sometimes he'll sit there and you'll say, that word says dog, Alfie. Okay, mummy. Right, read that sentence. The cat sat on the mat. We've just said it says dog, Alfie. He's like, and he's doing it on purpose. Like, he's trying to wind us up. Like, kids are clever. But you just think that, I guess they've just got so much patience, teachers. But it is a skill. It's a real skill. And I've always appreciated that. But getting children to learn, but more importantly, enjoy it. Like, we've got through this, but do I think my children have enjoyed learning with us? I don't think they have. They've enjoyed getting more time on the iPads and more time on the telly and all of that stuff. But the actual lessons have not been as fun as if they'd have been at school. And I think that's the key with education, isn't it? At primary, it's not about what they're learning. It's irrelevant if they're learning about history or geography. It's the wanting to learn.
Yeah.
That's what I worry about, I think, the outcome of lockdown is that lost now?
I think a lot of it is to do with environment as well, because, as you say, they enjoy being at home. They enjoy not having to put their school uniform on. The perks, as they would see it, but being in that environment, in a school, in a classroom, kids are like sponges. We were just talking how they pick up on everything that you say, on mannerisms, on actions, on things that you do, and they just adopt that themselves. Like, in that classroom environment, those sort of senses are heightened. And I do think that they will, like, in a year's time, we'll be past this, and I think they'll be a little bit older and they'll look back on this period of time, what they can remember of it, especially your eldest, and he'll really appreciate how he's living and how he's learning in his school in comparison to it, I think. But obviously your 2-year-old and your 5-year-old, they might not remember it, but I do think everything is catch-upable as well. I think for these kids, I think especially at the younger end of the scale, it's obviously difficult for kids doing GCSEs and A-levels, but we just have to accept the fact that this is an unprecedented event. So
I think the biggest thing for us is we've just tried to protect them a little bit from what's going on, because when I grew up, I never. That's the joys of working from home.
Joys of working from home. My wife's just come in during a podcast recording.
But that's what it's like, isn't it? Sometimes I can be on a call like this with a client, and our office is downstairs in our house, and I can hear World War III happening in my lounge. Like, there's been several occasions where I'm half listening, thinking, like, do I need to call an ambulance? Do I need to call the police? Like, something bad is happening out there, whilst trying to have a really professional conversation with my client. And it's that kind of, that kind of madness that you're having to deal with, really. But I think what I was saying was, I didn't want, like, my childhood, the world was never dangerous. So it wasn't the case that if you went outside, you could die. And if you weren't careful, that was the world that your children were growing up in. They were told, stay inside, it's not safe outside, don't go near people. And that kind of version of the world, I didn't want my children to have. I didn't want that to exist for them. So it was trying to get the balance of making them realise why it was happening, why this is important, but also just not making like little weirdos when they grow up, because, constantly washing their hands and all this kind of stuff. Everything's a balance, isn't it, really?
That's it. You want them to be streetwise enough to be able to sort themselves out, but equally you don't want them to have to deal with any of those situations where they need to sort themselves out. It is a fine line to tread. So we've talked about teamwork, how with the homeschooling you've been splitting the jobs, you've split your days into two. So you take the afternoon shift, Simon's been doing the morning, and then you're doing work in the evening. So What does work look like after a whole day of homeschooling 3 kids?
Long, really long. Like we genuinely are working to sort of like 2 in the morning
Wow.
most days. But that's just, that's just necessary, and we're grateful that we've got the work to be doing that. And this will pass, won't it? Do you know what I mean? The kids are going back the 8th of March, and I always just think you just do what you got to do, and that's it. What else can you do? What are you going to do? You're not going to help your clients. You're not, So again, when this second lockdown started, we just sent an email just saying, we're still working, we're still doing it, but our day patterns are changing. So if you send an email to us in the morning, might be you don't actually get a reply till 2 o'clock in the morning, but you will get a reply. So please bear with us, and I think it's just setting that expectations, isn't it? And letting people understand. But it is difficult, but I guess you got a things to do list, and it doesn't matter what time you start, you just got to get down your list, don't you? And then that's it.
Yeah, that's it. I think people have been a lot more understanding, and they've been allowing a lot more flex in life generally. When people have come back and said, workday's changing, homeschooling kids, it's difficult. We're all in the same boat. But working through to 2 in the morning can't be easy for you, especially when you've got 3 young kids who are probably up at the crack of dawn anyway as well.
Yeah, but Simon and I as well, we're sort of quite hard on ourselves. We don't want people to have making allowances for us. So I don't want my clients to think, I shouldn't ring Lisa because she's got 3 children. We're a different IFA firm. They might have advisors that don't have any kids. I want them to get exactly the same standard of service, regardless of my personal circumstances.
Yeah.
So we're quite, that adds a bit of pressure as well, because if we do see 45 emails, we just won't go to bed till they're answered. So I guess it's, and I found the difference between the 2 lockdowns. The first lockdown, everyone was kind of like, well, you can't do anything, you can't work, you can't go out. So there was probably more understanding, or I felt there was more understanding first time round, where second time, the remote world is the normal world for us. So I felt like people might perhaps not be as understanding the second time. And that isn't, no clients ever said to me, this isn't good enough, that we don't have those type of clients. We're very, very lucky. But I felt there was more expectation this lockdown than the first one, because people can do Zoom. Everyone knows what Zoom is now. So there isn't really an excuse not to do your annual reviews or not to do your appointments. So actually felt like this lockdown should be more business as usual than what the first one should, and particularly because we're now Millward Wealth, we're not Mercia. So I guess this, for us, the second lockdown's definitely been harder, because of, I guess, all that, which a lot of it we've just put on ourselves, but you are how you are, aren't you, sometimes?
You touched on it before we started recording. We were chatting, and this second lockdown, because it's happened in January, when you wake up in the morning, it's dark. When you go to bed at night, it's dark. You might come outside for the half an hour where it's not raining and get a little bit of sunlight. That doesn't help. I think the first lockdown, we had amazing weather last year.
We're so lucky with the weather. Yeah, right from the start, right from March, we were out in the garden from the very first week of the first lockdown. And that just makes a difference, because you almost feel like you're on holiday a bit. You get the paddling pools out, you get the water balloons out, the water guns. Your kids are having a whale of a time. It's very easy to be fun in the summer. It's really difficult when it's cold, and actually your kids are like little hermits and they don't want to go outside. And the fun part of the day where you go to the park becomes a battle, because they don't want to get the shoes on, they don't want to get the coat on, they can't be bothered. And by the time you get there, you think, I don't know why I bothered doing this. We're all miserable, we're all shouting at each other, and this is meant to be our family time. And it's a story that I hear over and over again with all my parent friends, that battle of trying to get the kids outside. So it is definitely harder because of that, because we all like, sunshine is good for you, isn't it? Vitamin D creates, and being outside. I go for a run every day at breakfast time. I wake up, I go outside, because then I know no matter what else happens in the day, I've been outside and I've done something, I've achieved something first, to crack of dawn. And also I don't have to deal with the chaos of breakfast as well. I leave Simon to do that. So it's double motivation on that one.
Well, that's, you got the afternoon shift, so breakfast on him. It's interesting you said that as well, because a couple of weeks ago, I work from home as well, obviously. We all do at the minute, but I've realised I've not actually been out of the house, out of the boundaries of our house for like 4 days. It was Thursday, and I thought, although I've walked from the length of the garden to get to the garage to go into my studio to sit and do my work, I've not seen daylight because Sarah's got the little one at home, so they've been walking the dog in the day. Oh no, don't take the dog, I'll take him. And then by the time I've got back up, it's pitch black, and it's like, oh, you're taking the dog? Yeah, I'm not going to take him. And then it was the Thursday that week, I thought, I haven't been anywhere. I need to make sure I get up and get out, because that we're not designed to be inside this sort of length of time, are we? We're just not made for it.
No, and I know it's very trendy to talk about mental health now, isn't it? Everyone seems to be doing it, but I think that sort of little bit of self-awareness and self-care is really, really important. Just acknowledging, I do need to get some fresh air, and I do need to actually eat today. And that kind of balance and being kind to yourself as well as to other people, I think has never been more important than in the last 12 months.
Yeah. So we're probably going into like slightly different topics now, like that we could probably talk for a lot longer on, but just wanted to sort of bring this sort of discussion to a sort of wrap up, as it were. So young business, young family in lockdown. It sounds to me, having talked to you, that you've had some tough times, but you've overcome them. You've worked it out. What are your top tips for homeschooling? I know we're coming to the end of this period of time now where the kids are going back to school on the 8th of March. But what if we have to do it again? If someone has to homeschool again, what would your top tips be?
It's really difficult. I definitely don't think I get the gold star for homeschooling, but I think it's just it is about like having a little bit of discipline. I think like setting the day out, but also communicating that with the children so they understand it. Often as parents, we've got a plan, we've got an agenda for the day. We just forget to share it with the kids. And I'm dyslexic, so I'm someone who I need a structure. I need to know what comes next. And I think I've always tried to treat the children that way, because I think it's reassuring. So Charlie and I, we plan the day at the start of the day, and I'll sort of say to him, right, this is what we're doing, this is the order we're doing it. Once we've done that, you get to do this. Once you've done that, we get to do this. Then that's your free time. And it's almost like a contract between us, like an agreement. You do this, I do that, we're all happy, we're all good. And 9 times out of 10 it goes out the window, but I tried my best at the start of the day, and that's how it works. And I think it is just having that agreement, whatever that agreement looks like for your family. So I've got some friends, all they're doing is English and maths. That's all they can do in their family. That is their limit. And I think it's just about understanding what can you achieve, and also what's important. So if there's some things in that day that isn't important, just don't do it. Just do what you want to do. Take your wins. Don't try and do everything. But I think, that kind of structure has worked really well for us.
I think that's your answer there was absolutely bang on. You touched on discipline, which is key to pretty much everything. Structure with your plan for the day, and prioritizing what's important. And we're just talking about homeschooling here, but those 3 core skills that you sort of discussed there are key in business as well. Have your structure, have your discipline, and prioritize. You can only work on what you're working on.
I went to it's really cheesy actually, but when I worked for Halifax, they're really keen when you go into these motivational talks and listening to people speak when they had the budget to do that. And I remember once that we saw there was a guy, Ben Hunt Davis, who's an Olympic rower, and he basically lost pretty much every race he'd done up until the Sydney 2000 where he got gold. And he's written a book now, because he said what they did, they just stopped doing everything they were doing, and every day, every decision they made, they just said, will it make the boat go faster? And if it didn't make the boat go faster, they're not doing it. And if it did, they will. And I've always I don't live my life by it by any means, but I've always got that in the back of my head, kind of like, what's the point? Like, why are we doing this? And I think that's the benefit when you're self-employed. You get to choose what you do. So what I hated the most about working in banks is I would sit in meetings for meeting's sakes. We'd talk about a meeting in the morning, we'd then have a meeting in the afternoon about the meeting in the morning. Nothing got done. There was just so much inefficiency in big companies. When you work for yourself, you set your own agenda, and it's like, is there value in this for my clients? Is there value in this for the company? If the answer is no, bin it, move on.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the same for homeschooling. You know, is there value for the education? Is there value for our family? There's not, don't do it.
Yeah. No, I think it's really, really good takeaways that for anyone who is sort of like winding down the last couple of days before we do send the kids back. And if we do, God forbid, end up in this shitstorm again, 3 key takeaways there. Make sure you're disciplined, have your structure, and prioritise what is important. So that's great. So really good chat on that, and I'm happy, and we'll draw that sort of topic to a close. So a couple of things. Hold on 1 minute, I'm just getting a knock on the door. This is my 3-year-old daughter.
Oh, bring her in.
Hold on 1 minute. So we were just interrupted then for a short while by my nearly 4-year-old daughter banging on the door because she was playing hide and seek with her mum. So we had to.
It's a great hiding place, though. That one will go far.
Yeah, I'll go and hide in Daddy's office when he's doing a podcast recording. Excellent, that's great. No, so we were just interrupted there very quickly. So we're just going to bring the conversation back now. So yeah, we've had a good chat about the lockdown. I don't think there's any more to be said on that, really. It's been great to hear your experiences and how you've dealt with it and whatnot. What I wanted to touch on now, just as we wrap up, is if you could give yourself from 2 years ago, what advice would you give yourself as you, having gone through the process of setting up a company? What would you tell yourself 2 years ago?
I guess it's really difficult, and that answer will probably evolve as I keep learning more and thinking I wish I'd have known that. I really value the time that I spent with you working on our branding. I remember we met in a pub, didn't we? And you asked us loads of questions that we really struggled to answer about kind of like, what did we want the company to be? Like, who are we? What is our identity? And because and I don't think I realised that just, well, we're financial advisors wasn't actually an answer to that question. It was really like, well, what makes you different? And what do you want your clients to think about when they think of you? And, in 10 years' time, what do you want that company to look like? And I think really thinking that through and taking the time to do that, which if I'm honest, doesn't feel important. You don't think all of that stuff's important, especially as an IFA. You're so worried about the compliance. So, like, what are the FCA going to ask me for? What systems do I need in place? The processes, that is all encompassing. And you think that's the most important thing. But actually, the amount of times that clients have said to me, love your brochure, Lise. I really love the pictures. We really love the website. We really like the feel of the company. They don't care about my processes. And like, the back office stuff's so important. It's regulation. It's not what your clients care about. That's just what stops you getting shut down. Yeah. So I think it's, I think investing that time and getting to know who you want to be. And also, I guess, keep coming back to it and keep thinking about, are we still where we wanted to be? Are we still doing what we wanted to do? I think is really, really important. And I didn't know that 2 years ago, which is probably why I put the brakes on it when I was doing all the FCA stuff. Like, we spent a lot of time at the start and then it went radio silence. And I actually wish I'd have used that year to do all the stuff that we had to do whilst I was trying to get the compliance stuff done. I wish I'd have only focused on that in the year that I was waiting to get authorised. So when we were up and running, it was done, then I could have just focused on the compliance. Because as it panned out, I tried to do both at the same time, which was quite stressful. But definitely just understanding what you want your company to be is absolutely essential.
That why we exist is so important, and I'm glad you enjoyed that process, and it was great working with you because you were like super receptive to it. Because when I asked the questions, like, it was almost like a light came on. You were like, oh yeah, why do I do it? And it was like you really bought into this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it was brilliant for me to see that as someone who works with brands and identities with businesses, because that why affects every single facet of your business. Now, as you say, the compliance side of things, the back office is vital, because that's effectively the engine that makes your business run. But that compliance is the same for every single financial advisor out there. What differentiates you as a business to your clients and prospective clients is that why, isn't it? It's so
absolutely
important.
Yeah, because when you're talking to a client and you're having that first meeting and you're talking about their finances, but actually you're really letting your client get to know you, because what they're really making a decision of is, do I want this financial advisor in my house every year, year after year? Do I like them? And I actually say that to the clients. I'm like, you've got to decide, do you want me to be your financial advisor? Because the financial planning concepts, I'm sure there are differences between firms, but fundamentally, we're all doing the same things if you're doing it right. So like you say, the difference is the person. And if you can get the person into your business idea, then you're talking about something you really believe in all the time, aren't you? So
yeah. So good advice for anyone in a similar position to you were, to where you were, it was to be really, really drill down as to why you do what you do.
Invest that time in exploring your company, I guess.
Yeah, and what you want it to look like. So, no, great advice, and thank you for the plug for me as well. There, you
can pay me later.
And so I'm going to fire some quick fire one-word answers now. This is somebody, a guy I know, Jack Craven, who's got a podcast, did this to me, and it put me on the spot because I wasn't prepared for it. So, but it's quite good fun actually. So, what do you do for relaxation?
Eat chocolate and watch crap telly.
You're supposed to say I won't go for a run, because you mentioned
I do go for a run, but I don't do that for relaxation. I do that to get away from the kids and the husband. That is my escape. That is not the same.
Oh God, right. Audi or BMW?
Audi.
Good choice.
I actually have a Q7, so I'm invested in it.
Yeah. Rugby or football?
Rugby.
Excellent.
There's a nice culture at rugby, isn't there? Like we go to, Simon supports Villa, so therefore the family supports Villa. I always think the atmosphere at football is so aggy all the time, and the atmosphere at rugby is, it's a nice family day out, isn't it? So and the boys are playing rugby now as well, so it's good, and even Emily plays. So.
Oh, that's good. And so I've got to get my Emily started on it soon as well. But she's the pinkest little child you'll ever see. So I'm not convinced she's going to want to play rugby like her mum and dad did. So, but there we go. There was another one as well, and I've forgotten what it was now. Sum up your business. Sum up your career in 3 words.
Oh my God. That is 3 words actually, but that's probably not what you're looking for. My actual career. Or my company?
Your career as a self-employed company owner. Because of lockdown, oh my God, it's probably not that bad. Actually,
God, or still getting there, still working on it. I don't know how many words are there. I don't know. I guess I do feel proud of where we are, and sort of optimistic about how things are going to go, and. Stress probably isn't a good one, is it? Probably won't go with that, but I don't know.
Passionate.
There we go. We go.
Yeah, no. Oh, that's great. Well, sorry to drop those on you at the last minute, but it's always good, I think, to just not tell people that these are coming. So, brilliant chat with you. We're going to wrap it up there because I'm conscious of time. But yeah, brilliant to chat. I think there's going to be takeaways for most people, most parents who are running businesses from home with kids homeschooling. So I think there'll be some good takeaways there. Thanks for your time. It's been great to catch up, and hopefully sometime after the 21st of June, I'll be in the area. We'll catch up and go for a coffee with you and Simon to catch up as well. So thank you, mate.
Thank you.
And I will see you very soon.
Great. Thank you.